word, how we bring ourselves to a conclusion that our lives are limited to one thing. Like, why do we feel like our lives is limited to one thing? I probably should have put the, it don't matter. Because we're like multifaceted. Commitment. And we're multifaceted. And we should be committed to seeing ourselves in that way and not limit ourselves to just one part of us. You know? Don't limit yourself to anything that's not going to bring you peace and harmony and balance. Don't limit yourself to anything that's going to be a fatality. You know? You got to close off those old mindsets and just bring in some clarity and truth with good intentions, because that's what we are supposed to do. And gotta avoid the foolishness. You gotta know when to take the good and leave the bad. Now, there is a such thing as good trouble. We have to have a duality. Okay? There is a duality. But you gotta make sure you're not opening a door to something that's gonna overtake you. That's gonna deliberately cause you hardship. Because, you know, even people will come in your life just to get close to you, just to see how much they can influence you. I remember having a conversation when I was married to my children's father. He had his friend David, and he wanted David and David's wife to start coming to church. At that time, when my kids were younger, I was a heavy churchgoer, but he wasn't 2 steps in church. I convinced him to go to church. And I told him, I said, you got to be careful when you're trying to convince somebody else to do something. And they might influence, while you're trying to influence them, they might actually influence you. Influence you into the things that they do, you know? And David him and his wife were into a lot of different things that we were not into. But it started becoming something that my husband was interested in becoming into, you know? So they did exactly what I said would happen. Like, he wanted to be involved in the triangles, in the squares. He didn't want to be involved with the circle. I was the circle. He wanted to be involved with the triangles and the squares. All them group activities. I ain't got time for that. Because the one thing that I have learned, and this is the reason why I brought this up, the one thing I have learned is that, you know, that kind of stuff drain you, and it will deplete you, unbalanced, and it distort it. It will, your soul doesn't, like, you're taking on all these different soul ties with all these different people who are having soul ties with all these other different people. So now your soul is like, where am I? What am I? And I knew that was not something that I wanted to be involved in, right? Because for the simple fact is that soul ties are real. They can cause you to have unclean spirits come upon you. And I wouldn't want that. It's called sexually transmitted demons. Okay? And when you're involved, and it, to each his own, because a lot of times people feel like, oh, you're supposed to, there are groups and organizations that believe that sharing is caring. However, who are you sharing with? What their soul look like? And if one individual has a vampire soul spirit, and they ain't got no soul on them at all, but they have a vampiristic view of things, you know what they come to do? They come to suck you dry. You think the sex magic be real. You be so into what they got going on and what they doing, and so into, them being a part of you or being with you or any little thing with you, just any type of connection with you. You'll be off your rocker trying to stay around and be with that person. You have to know how to draw the line, when to say no, when enough is enough, when to choose you instead of that thing or that person. When you recognize that someone is sucking you dry, when you recognize it and you find it, because for a long time you become aloof to what's going on or who they are. You won't recognize why you're going through certain illnesses. You won't recognize why your body is not functioning the way that it used to. You won't recognize why you're having all these different difficulties within your body, because if you carry a soul and they are feeding from you, then they are depleting you in areas where you usually would not be depleted from, where you would be, your creativity. Like if you're an athlete, you might get injured in some type of way where you are not able to do what you would normally do. You wouldn't be able to perform in the way that you would normally perform, because they're feeding from you. That's your sacral and your root chakras are where your creativity comes from, where your gifted abilities are coming from. But if you're giving that area to someone with no soul, they are depleting you in that area. They're draining you, and they're gonna stick around for the long haul, because you're a live feed. They're not going nowhere, and they're not gonna ever want to leave you. They're gonna manipulate you into, and you're gonna know, because something within you is gonna tell you that something ain't right about this. Like, I don't know why I feel this way, but something ain't right. You're not gonna feel easy within if you got a soul. Now, if you ain't got no soul, you might roll with them. But if you got a soul within you, you're not gonna feel easy rolling with them. You're not gonna feel easy being with them. No. You're gonna have a sense of vulnerability that is going to be feast upon. And they know that they're doing what they're doing to you. They know it. They thrive off the fact that you don't know. And as long as you are ignoring that spiritual side of you, that God-given spiritual side of you, as long as you are ignoring that, then they're able to manipulate you in any way that they need to. need to do, once you recognize it, you need to create boundaries and, put yourself in a position where you're in a solitude position where you can hear the things that are being done to you, because we have an opportunity to tap into the spirit world, but we oftentimes don't, because we think that that's demonic. And it's interesting because people in church will swear up and down it's demonic, but they call on Jesus, who had the same abilities as we do. Jesus came to show you the way, the truth, and the light, right?